Michael here, and in this video, Granola Bindings Part 2, I will carve down the arm bevel block and install the arm bevel veneer that goes around it. That'll complete the binding process on these bodies. So keep watching. Well, I've gotten all the binding on the guitar and I have sanded it down smooth all the way around on the top and on the sides and on the back. So the next step is going to be going ahead and carving out my arm bevel block and get ready to glue the veneer on it. So to get rid of the wood that I don't need here, I'm simply going to use a hand plane. I want to remove all the wood between where this piece of binding meets this piece of binding, right where the black meets the black on each end, all the way down to where my sides are carved out. So I'm just going to take a minute and work a little bit more on that. Well, I spent some time with some small sanding blocks that are perfectly flat because I want this area right here to be perfectly flat all the way around. There's not actually a curve to that portion. And I've sanded right up to where I can just see my black line. I've sanded the binding that was the oven coal away all the way up to there. I can check it with just a piece of the veneer that I'm going to use to put on there. Make sure that I just see that black line when it's flush. The next thing I need to do is just to go ahead and cut out my piece of veneer. To get a template of that area, I'm just going to use a little strip of masking tape. And there we go, stick it on there. And then just with a little pencil, I'm just going to go make a little line on there. Now that's the shape that I need my veneer to be, so I'm going to take my piece of veneer and kind of judge where the grain pattern that I want to be on there will be. And then I'm just going to come over with a little pencil and draw an outsized line about that. And then I'm just going to cut to that outsized line. I'm going to take this over to my disc sander and just kind of smooth everything around and round off these ends just a little bit. Well, with the arm bevel block sanded down just up to the touching of the black line, it's time to go ahead and prepare and glue on my overlay here. So what I'm going to do is use a white glue, and I'm going to coat both surfaces with the glue. I'm going to let both of these glue surfaces dry, and when they're thoroughly dry, I'm going to take a little bit of sandpaper, a very light grit, and kind of clean up where the grain has been raised. And then I'm going to repeat the process. Well, the first layer of glue is dry, and I can feel it's a little rough where the wetness of the glue has raised the grain. So I'm going to take a little bit of sandpaper and just kind of smooth off the rough spots. Okay, now that I've gotten that done, I'm going to apply one more coat of glue. Okay, now let those thoroughly dry again, and then I can do the gluing on process. The second coat of glue is dried, and it's nice and smooth there, and so I'm ready to glue it back on. And the way this works is I have a veneer iron that's set to about anywhere from 190 to 200 degrees Celsius. And I'm going to take the two glued surfaces and carefully placing my veneer where it needs to be. I'm just going to use the iron, and the heat will reactivate the glue. Take a little piece of tape and hold my ends down. This is where that coat of shellac really comes in handy. Okay, I'm going to let that cure, let that dry, then I will put some super glue, real thin. I'll drizzle it down where the joints meet, and then I can trim that off. Well, the glue is dried on my arm bevel veneer, and I've taken the tape off. But before I start trimming this down flush with the top and the backs, I want to make sure that it's really stuck on there well. So I'm just going to take a little pipette with some super glue in it and run it right down the seams here. Give that a minute to soak in, then I'm going to turn it over. And put some on the back side as well. Once that super glue sets up real well, then I can start going ahead and doing the trimming process of trimming the excess of my arm bevel veneer down. Well, the arm bevel veneer has been glued on, it's dried, I've taken the tape off, and now I need to trim this overhang on here. And I really need to be careful right here at my ends. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to take just a little piece of protection on the top. And then I have a razor blade that I've taken and just put some double stick tape, just a little something to hold on to it. This is just a little piece of square rubber. And I'm just going to come on here and with something to kind of press down, start on the end and just cut into that veneer, which is about 34 thousandths of an inch thick. I could probably do a little lighter veneer, but I like the thickness of it because it adds kind of a border. Okay, I've gotten the top little overhang nibbled away there, and start on the sides. And to do the sides, I'm going to do them a little differently, but I am going to go ahead and just kind of score that area with the blade. This is a pair of fingernail scissors, and going down grain, I'm just going to cut that veneer off by being very careful at my ends. Okay, now that I've gotten real close with my trimming, I'm just going to go to a piece of sandpaper on a little sanding block and work on the ends first and on the sides. Now that I've gotten it hand sanded down almost totally smooth all the way around, I'm going to switch over to a random orbital sander, but I'm not going to use a pad that's got the holes in it because they might snag my ends. And this is about a 220 rib. Okay, so there's the arm bevel veneer installed and sanded down flush with the sides and the top. I've still got a little bit more work to do on the body before I'm done with it, but that's got our binding on and our arm bevel veneer on, and so this one's ready to go for the next step. Well, that concludes this video journal on the bindings part 2. I've gotten all the bindings and the arm bevel veneer installed on the bodies, and they're ready for the next step. If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe, hit the notification icon, and there is a link down below where you can support the channel if you'd like. And thank you all so much for watching.